well. So there we go. Timing matters. There we go. All right, so here's how we're going to spend our time. We're going to shout out some early kind of investors, folks that have dedicated their time already supporting us. We'll hear a bit of the context. Then we'll have opportunity to hear directly from some students, which I think is pretty cool. We'll participate in an activity, kind of think through what it feels like to be in kind of these familiar situations. We'll take a look ahead and then some options for engagement and Q&A. If you have questions throughout, feel free to throw them in the chat. There are a lot of us here that will be able to answer any of the questions that you might have for us.
So I just want to give some early shout outs to some of the people that have been early thought partners and how to do this work across Colorado. So today we have with us Miguel Lovato and Tony Lewis from the Donnell K Foundation. So just wanted to give them a chance to say a few words as we get started here.
All right, well, I'll jump in just quickly. I don't want to, spend a whole lot of time. Just want to welcome everyone. Thanks. Thank you to each of you for joining us here today. We've had the great opportunity to work with Wendy, Aaron, and crew just to really explore this issue. I think at Donnell K, any issues that affect children and youth and their ability to learn, to thrive, to be healthy are important issues to us. And there are a number of us, I think, who have, a soft spot for this population through some either personal experience or knowing young people and having engaged in some way, and knowing that these are children, these are truly young people whose brains are growing, and how do we ensure that they are treated fairly and ultimately given the support and needs to support in order to be healthy and to be well and to be successful in life. So anyway, just welcome everyone. Really appreciate everyone being here today. And Wendy, Aaron, and Generation Schools Network, thank you for leading in this area. We're happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll weigh in just briefly. Tony Lewis with Donnell K. Miguel was quite articulate in his comments, and I appreciate everything he said, working with Generation Schools and with these students. The thing that I'll just put out there to everybody is that while a lot of us have a soft spot for these kids, they're largely overlooked, and they're largely in a way kept behind bars, if you will. They're pushed off to the side. They're in a box of their own, and we don't focus on them. We're like, oh, there's not that many kids, or oh, they've done bad things. Like, no. Like, we've got to rethink this. These are lives. There's a lot of kids involved in the justice system. We need to focus on these kids and get them on a path to a better life where they can thrive. And so I just want to say, like, this is important work, and it has implications for all students. And then lastly, I'll say, hey, we gathered everybody here today to make you more aware of this population, to give you some data and some background on the good work that Gen Schools has been doing around it, to look at some of the things that we can do around a student bill of rights and legislative activities. And there's funding needs too. So I want to just call out to people, like, you're here to help us learn and grow and gather data and fund some programs and get involved in some work groups and help move things forward for those who can legislatively. Like, there's a lot to do. And these guys are going to be very gentle in their ask, but I will be a little less gentle in my ask, which is help us figure this out, help us move this forward. And we look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks you for that. And I also see, so those are some of our early partners. Another one is Caring for Colorado. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here today, but they've been some great thought partners as well, kind of throughout this process. And I appreciate you calling it out. I see in the chat that there are so many people that are already involved with serving the youth. So Tony's call out of supporting the youth is very real, and we're here to share information. And you're right, I'll jump on the train of being less gentle as well. We would love your funding, so I'm gonna just say that there. And then one organization that we also have been partnering with is Attorney General. Wendy, do you want to speak to a little bit about what they've been doing with us?
Sure. So in addition to the work that Generation Schools has been doing broadly over the last 15 years, related to supporting students who are often getting left behind, from 2020 to 2022, we've also been in a Justice Education Innovation Grant with the Colorado Attorney General's office. And a lot of the people on the phone have worked directly on that. And what that's allowed us to do is to have funding to case manage for students that are coming out of justice or engaged in justice and are having trouble getting through school. So we've spent the last 2 years doing that on the ground, very intimately working through about 20 cases with individual students. And so this next effort toward creating a justice engaged student bill of rights really comes directly out of that work. And from what we've identified in the system is a whole bunch of confusion about what is supposed to happen when a student becomes justice engaged or leaves justice engagement and tries to do school reentry. And there just is not a lot of clarity. We've probably talked to over 100 people who are invested in different places in the system, and everyone kind of agrees that the problem is that nobody really knows, right? There's no specific training for this. If you're a principal, there's no guidebook on how you do it. And so what we really need to do is pull together to create something that can be a lay document supported by legislation and policy that gives people direction on where to go and what to do and how to solve this issue, which is why we need all of you involved. This is just a really large collective impact effort that we're going to be working on.
Thank you for that. So Wendy highlighted, we've done work in the past for 15 years or so, really getting down to supporting schools and doing a lot of deep learning. In that 2-year span, we did a lot of deep learning about students that are engaged with the justice system. And so now we're going to have opportunity to think through some of these facts. And I think, I would love for you all to jump in the chat. If there's a fact that comes out to you, say, oh, wow, put oh, wow there. Don't leave it in your brain. I want to make sure I know that you had an oh, wow moment. So let's get started with some of this context. So to get a better understanding, here are some facts that you kind of need to know. On any given day, nearly 60,000 youth under the age of 18 are incarcerated in juvenile jails across the United States, according to the ACLU. Only 20% of those students ever go on to earn a diploma, 20%. The average state cost to secure confinement for a young person is $588 per day, or $214,000 per year. Now, compare that to the average cost to educate students of $100,000 for a 4-year degree. And then you'll have this thought of, it costs more to incarcerate students than it does to educate them. That's a startling fact. And then the average, I talked about the average cost. Let's think through some of the kind of educational attainment issues as well. So it's not as simple as that this costs money. It does. But many incarcerated youth are marginally literate or illiterate and have already experienced school failure. Youth in juvenile justice systems are identified as eligible for special education services 3 to 7 times the rate of youth outside the system. So to kind of help you think through that, 19 out of the 20 students that we partner with all qualify for special education services. All of them, 19 out of 20. And then one kind of startling fact as well that adds to this layer of inequity is that in the state of Colorado, youth of color are taken into custody at double the rate of their white counterparts. So it's really kind of framing what's happening in schools. Now, let's get even deeper in Colorado as well. Over 55 students under the age of 18 are arrested in Colorado, plus an additional 753 in secure lockup. So to highlight that, enrollment is higher in 85% of school districts in the United States, including 2 that are in Colorado, Adams 14, which is a smaller urban district, and then Montrose, which is a larger rural district. It's 85%. Here's another fact that you should think about. These students, while they are in the jail system and in confinement, those 2 systems are not talking to each other. That's a huge part to pay attention to, and you'll see it kind of highlighted throughout. So while they're not in school, once the student is released from confinement, students and parents try to enter back into the education system, mostly on their own. What school can my child go to? What services will they receive? Is their IEP up to date and still valid? Can they graduate on time? Is there a path to graduate at all? These are just some of the questions that students and families consider. Likewise, teachers, principals, admin in general, probation officers, school safety officers are all trying to figure out, how do we support these students once they get out of the system? As alluded to earlier, this impacts all students, not just these students as well. It's the disruptions in the classroom that cause other students to be off track. Now, remember that the classroom is a group activity. They learn in groups. It's lower graduation rates. It's prisons being built based off a third grade reading level. It's long-term dependence on numerous societal systems. So we have an opportunity here to solve an issue that impacts the whole education system in Colorado. I want to take a second to ask you all, and maybe we can have two people come off mute. What's one of these facts that surprised you? Come on now, I'm a teacher. I know how to wait.
I mean, I think I knew it was expensive to incarcerate folks. I didn't know it was quite that much money. It's pretty shocking.
I'm not too surprised by all this. I worked with juvenile offenders at the district attorney's office and homeless and runaway youth. So unfortunately, yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I
appreciate
would
you all.
even, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wendy, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I was even surprised. I'm in a PhD program too, and been doing a lot of research around this. And I think I was even surprised when you aggregated the number of kids that are impacted, and then you looked at that against districts in Colorado, where that ended up. You know, it can be a hidden problem in some ways because the kids are so dispersed, but if you look at it in aggregate, it's, you know, being the size of mid-sized district in Colorado is significant.
I guess what surprises me is that this is a problem that hasn't been addressed on a system level, because that's what it's going to take. Higher education, K-12, all the principal training you mentioned, everything. And so it's been 25 years since I worked with juvenile offenders, and that's what the term we used back then. So I just want to like figure this out.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that energy. And you're exactly right. This is a thing that impacts a lot of different systems, and a lot of systems are contributing to. And so we have an opportunity to figure this out from a systemic level. So we talked about the data. A lot of this data did not surprise you. It might have startled you, but it did not surprise you. I want to put some faces to some of these numbers. I had an opportunity to listen to the stories of 4 youth that have been incarcerated. So each Saturday they meet at Miss May's house. Now, if you don't know Miss May is a pillar in the Mount Bello community. She spent 30 years fostering and struggling youth and young adults, and still is doing it now. She allowed me in her home to interview students that meet through Turning Point in the city. So as you listen, I want you all to think through, what do you notice about what the students are talking about? And then what do you believe their needs are? So what do you notice, and what do you believe their needs are? So you said you had one teacher. You got one teacher, that at least one teacher that you.
Yeah, they would listen. They would help us with our work actually and stuff. But yeah, most teachers don't do that.
And how
from the
what grade was that teacher?
8.
Oh, so that's happening. Oh, and all y'all in high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all haven't had any teachers in high school that you like actually rock with?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. What about you?
Hell no.
None. Zero.
It's right here.
Okay.
But I've already been on for like 5 seconds.
What y'all grades look like now?
Yeah, I like all S. If I was in school.
So you said all F's. What about you?
They're good actually. I think they're C's and B's.
What your grades look like? What that look mean?
That's how you know they have.
Yeah. Straight A student.
Oh yeah,
You could be a straight A student. I don't know, but what's your grades look like now?
What my grades look like?
Yeah, I mean, there ain't no consequence.
Shit like D plus, F.
And so, but why though? So you said your grades are decent, and then y'all said y'all grade because you're not in
Bro, it's
school.
because Bob been in jail most of school, bro. I'm barely getting back, bro. So I've been back for like grade months or something. You know?
Bro, niggas only been back
Oh.
for a few weeks.
So,
Not a few weeks.
so y'all just not getting back into school.
Yeah, we went to
For
jail at the
real.
same time. Well, not
Oh, shoot.
Not the same time, but like what? Like
We got caught together. When I was
yeah,
there,
but
we
he
went
didn't
to
get locked
jail.
up the same day I did, but then a few days. What? Like a few days,
It
or
was
like a week.
like a week later, but I can't.
Yeah, it was like a week.
Really quick, as I continue the video, one of the teachery things is I can't let a whole video go without jumping in and describing things. So the student there in the middle is not in school yet. He's been out of confinement for, I think he said 2 to 3 weeks, and just chose not to go back to school for a variety of reasons. The student that's furthest to the right, where you see Mariah, who's one of the kind of program coordinators for this, he's gotten back into school, but has no clue what his grades really look like. The student on the left is a senior that's about to graduate in May. And he's just chosen to keep his head down and to get his work done. And so you'll kind of see that they have different realities, but similar struggles.
Yeah, I would say too, Massey, that the student on the left is one that's been in the program for about 1.5 years. So he has had intensive support, and we were all thrilled when he decided to engage with us around meeting with his biology teacher and rescuing his biology grade because he wants to go into the medical field. And we were like, then dude, you got past biology. And so I think that's the difference you're seeing. You're seeing kids that are just entering the program kind of sitting on the right. And then you're seeing a student that's been in the program for about 1.5 years on the left.
And remember, the guiding question is, what do you think their needs are?
Yeah.
So y'all don't, so the school stuff that y'all do in jail, that doesn't talk
I didn't
to
do
the
schoolwork,
school.
bro, because it's like you gotta do like for even to get 1 credit, you gotta do 40 days of work straight
Mm.
to get 1 credit for every class. So I get 5 credits. That's just not fulfilling.
You gotta do 40 days straight to get 1 credit?
Yeah, and I wasn't even there for 40 days.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem, I would imagine. Yeah, like that's so okay. So now that y'all back, grades not good because y'all been gone for a while. Yours are decent, but y'all been gone for a minute. Is there anybody helping y'all catch up with them grades? Like, is there one person that you go to and be like,
Yeah, the girls in the class, but I just be taking their answers.
you said the girls in the class. You shaking your head, so that's what you do too?
Y'all on AirPod?
Garbage.
And you doing
She
yours
was
though.
on the phone.
You're doing your work.
Huh?
She was on the phone.
Oh, okay, so you're getting your work done because Mariah's helping, and then y'all not getting y'all work done. Like at all? Y'all not turning nothing in?
No, I do
What's
work.
that mine school?
I mean, shit, I don't do the work. The girls do it for me. I really don't do
And then you just copy and turn it in? What about the adults though? Like, are teachers helping y'all?
Them niggas be slow. Oh my god.
I mean, they try.
They try.
They try.
They try.
What about credit? You said that you got 9th grade credits right now. So like, when
I got
y'all,
9th grade credits too.
is there like a, so after y'all left the jail, what was the first day of school like?
In jail?
No. After you left jail and went back to your current school.
I haven't went back to school yet. But when I got locked up last time we came back, it was alright.
So you haven't been back yet, and then
You
you
just tell me what's up about how you been, like shit like that.
Yeah.
I just how to be, but you be telling me what's up about what you did, acting like they the police and shit.
But okay, so that's your friend. Your friends are checking in on you, saying like, "How you doing?" What about the school though?
Oh, I had a meeting before I could go back
Okay, what was that mean? Like with who?
with the school, because every time you get a charge that has something to do with a gun, you gotta do like a meeting and shit.
Oh yeah, like a safety meeting.
So yeah.
So what you all can see here is that the student in the hoodie, in the gray hoodie all the way to the right, he did have a meeting with some of the professionals at the school, it was just a safety meeting to make sure that he knew what the expectation was safety wise, but it was not a meeting to talk about his credits. It was not a meeting to talk about his grades. It was not a meeting to talk about the credits that he acquired in jail. And in fact, he couldn't acquire in jail because he couldn't reach 40 days in a row because he wasn't there for 40 days in a row. Re-entry. Okay, so then you had a re-entry meeting, and then, but after that re-entry meeting, then what?
It was cool.
Like then it's just back to regular school?
But it starts me every morning though. It's fast,
Does anybody talk to you about your grades or like credits or
well,
like?
I can't get my credits back because I was in jail.
Do y'all got a plan on, like, has somebody at the school already talked to you all about like, here's how you graduate on time, or here's how and when you can graduate?
I ain't know, somebody told me something like that. Like, just do your work.
So so each of y'all can answer this. When are y'all gonna graduate?
2026.
So you graduate in May?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said 2026?
2024.
Okay. And you said you ain't back in school yet. So what you doing?
You said what?
I ain't coming at you. I just, if you're not back in school yet, like what are you doing in between time?
Bro, I just be chilling, bro. I can have, bro. Just chilling. Yeah.
At home?
Yeah.
Smoking.
Literally, that's just what I just be doing. They said my team was on, like they said they was gonna be back in school. Like, yeah.
So for the most part, you just chilling at home and smoking. So ain't nobody came from the school and been like, you gotta come to school? Okay. And what would it take for you to go back to school?
For them to get me into school, I can't just go myself and be like, cause they already want me to sign this thing and now they're waiting on me. Or like, they're waiting on like, they're staying for OT and all that. They were saying that for like a week. Bro, wasn't you there when they were saying that too?
I'm gonna pause us there. I think you all kind of get the gist of what the conversation was like. When asked, what do you do when you're not in school? He said, chilling and smoking. That's it, chilling and smoking. We know that when students are not in a classroom involved with a teacher, involved with the school, they are that much more likely to get into trouble. And I am quite sure, because you all can't see, but he had, an ankle monitor on his ankle because he's on probation. I'm quite sure that it is against his probation to smoke, but he has also nothing to do. Later in the interview, they talk about how it's quite easy to just get right back into the system as well. So all they would have to do is drug test him one time and he would be right back in that jail system. So you said you had one teacher, you got one teacher? So I want to take a second, 30 seconds, maybe one or two people, just like you all came off of mute before. What do you think they need? Math teacher, I can wait.
So there's one answer in the chat, Massey.
I can't, my
Okay.
technology skills, thank you so much.
Yeah, so Tony threw in at least one adult in the school system with whom they have a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And I want to note that, when I explicitly asked, do you have at least one adult in your school, in your high school, that like supports you, that you check in with? They said no. It was very plain. They said nope. Is there anything else in the chat? I want to make sure.
No.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, great. So I'm happy that you all got to take a second to like hear and put faces to this actual problem. This is one of those situations. Think about the student. He said, I asked him, what would it take for you to get back in school? And he said, for them to put me back in school. Right, no solution. That's not no solution at all to how to actually go back to school. That's a goal of his, but no solution at all. We're going to now walk through an activity from a parent's perspective of how to actually answer that question, like what would it take to get back in school? Wendy is going to kind of lead us in a debrief conversation, but what were kind of, let's give 2 or 3 people opportunity to shout out. We needed more time, always. What were kind of some of your observations while doing this activity?
Hey, I'll go, Aaron, because I might have to leave this call soon because I'm dealing with some legislative fires that I have to pull out. And I've also got 2 small kiddos who are sick at home, and I'm on dad duty as well. Yeah, I know, right? It's tough. I was just pointing out that a lot of folks may not even know what levers they have and what levers of influence they have to pull, right? Miguel pointed out, asked a question about, what were the conditions of the pre-release agreement when someone's coming, that someone had signed on to. And Miguel, made a really good point that some people may not even understand what the pre-release agreement was or what they signed, how binding it was. Our scenario was a rural area, and Miguel pointed out that you could reach out to certain schools and say, are there alternative schools in the area? But if it's a rural area, that could be miles and miles and miles away. How does that conflict with a parent's ability to get to work and provide, do the things that they need to do? It was really difficult for me because I was saying in my scenario, I work in the governor's office. I worked in the legislature for 5 years. I worked for someone who served as vice chair on the education committee. Like, I'd be raising all holy hell immediately to all of those levers, right? And the average person doesn't get that, and I'm very cognizant of that, right? And so some people may not know that they could put a tremendous amount of pressure on their elected officials to say, hey, correct this, or and that when you elevate things like that, sometimes things get done faster. The average person may not understand that they can do that. And also, quite honestly, you probably shouldn't have to do that to get this done, right? That's another thing that I think we should probably be recognizing. But I just wanted to get those points out there. My first thing would be, though, if I was a parent, I think Miguel pointed out, trying to see, okay, are there other schools I can get my kid in, how close they are? But also, I would really want to dig into what that pre-release agreement was and how binding it was, and dig into that a little bit more too.
Yeah, I appreciate that reflection. Yeah. Does one more person have a reflection for us too?
I can do some there from our group. I think what our group and all the questions that we had and why we ran out of time is because of the complexity. I think this really shows, how complex this issue is, how many layers there are to it. And when you're thinking about how you're going to serve these families and these children, it starts so far ahead of this issue. Like, there are so many things that need to be done in order to even support something being done once the child is released and finding a school. I mean, there's so many layers of a single mom trying to work, trying to feed their kids, the adverse childhood experiences that they may have experienced themselves as the parent, and then what their kids are. I mean, what kind of community involvement is there, or are there relationships? I mean, there is so much to this story. I think that's why we didn't get very far at all, because your mind just kind of explodes with, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do in this. I wouldn't even know how to advise a parent, because I don't know what's really going on and what they have. So it's hard. I mean, trying to walk through that with all the layers, this is very hard work.
Sure. And I think before I pass it over to Wendy, I want to highlight, so Vivis and I were both principals in Colorado. We did not receive training on how to help a student that has been involved with the justice system. It really honestly for us, it became like we know, we grew up in circumstances where our best friends were involved with these systems. And so, we had a bleeding heart and made sure that, we helped the student and the parent as much as possible. But it should not be left up to an individual to make sure a child gets their education. It shouldn't be left up to me. There should be a spelling out. And I think, Reggie and I talked about in our group, there should be a very clear understanding of who should be doing what and how we kind of have a concerted effort to get these things done. Wendy, did you want to close this section out?
Yeah, thank you all for participating in that exercise and just getting into kind of what the work has been about for us the last 2 years. I do want to let you know, just personally, this brings me back to my own experience as a parent. My middle son was charged with a felony between his freshman and sophomore year after parkouring turned into tagging and trespassing and a bunch of other things. And even as a white woman with lots of privilege who works in this sector, I was in the same place. I was calling my friends. I was saying, would you be able to take him? What can I do? How do I go about this? And so it just really emphasizes why we did the work the last 2 years, to see if to confirm, I guess, what I experienced is the typical experience, and to be able to amass that list of issues, which we've done, that we ran into in almost every situation or repeatedly throughout the case management process. And well, even though we had people like Donna, Anna stepping in and supporting students.
Great, thanks for that. I am going to share my screen again and kind of go through what we've been doing already. So, and I won't go through each of these steps, but here's where we're at. So phase 1 was doing the work that we kind of loosely already talked about. That phase 2 was us partnering with the organization to serve 20 youth directly.
Hey, Aaron.
Yep.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt you. You're actually showing your notes, not the presentation.
Oh. Okay, let me see if
Common thing with presenters, we're all on
of
Zoom,
course.
not so much at all, so.
Very impressive, by the
appreciate
way.
Say it again.
Amy said your notes were impressive.
Very impressive.
Let me see. Let me stop sharing. This is the risk of sharing anything. Let me see if I can. While I'm figuring that out, I'm gonna still talk about these phases. How about that? This last phase we're doing research on. That research has been ongoing and making sure. Can you all see that slide deck now? Hey, there we go. We're all good now?
Yes.
Hey, there we go. Okay, cool. So we've been doing that research. This last phase that we have started and kind of will continue to do is this community stakeholder building, really getting a sense of what organizations are already doing. And what I will argue is this most important step that we're in, that Tony would say we need funding for. So I want to be clear about that, is this community engagement process. Somebody alluded to this earlier. We cannot do this in isolation. It will take a community effort to make sure that we are serving the needs of students and that it sticks. And so, that requires us to talk to a lot of students. That requires us to have consistent community-wide meetings so they are informing our practices, to making sure that we're doing this correctly. We're approaching this from a holistic standpoint. That includes legislative policy fixes, which are the next phases, and then kind of this back-end phase as well of system-wide training. How do we prepare schools to be able to do this and do it well? And then, the last phase is how do we provide stability for it and then correct on those areas where we might not have perfected throughout the process. This can be cyclical. This can be us learning and continuously learning while solving a problem at the same time.
So you might be asking why we're taking this Justice Engaged Student Bill of Rights approach. And it came from a in-depth research project where we looked at Bill of Rights issues that had been brought to education to be addressed in the last 20 years to see if it was a way to actually get traction. And what we found is when it's paired with a community effort, a collaborative impact effort, it is a way to get traction and to change problems. And so the strategy we're using is from this article, Deconstructing the Birdcage, about how we can change ecosystems. And we'll be happy to send that to you and follow up to the presentation. The big idea behind this is that those that are most proximate to the problem have the key to unlocking the ingenuity and innovation necessary to deconstruct the birdcage, which is why we're taking the approach that we're taking.
Great. And then Wendy, can you also share the ways to engage?
Sure. So these are the ways that we're asking you to engage. As we've mentioned, we need funding for doing this work and engaging the community. We're asking you to help connect us. We have a list of over 100 different, probably 150 different organizations and people we've met with so far that may want to be engaged in the effort. Please tell us who else you know that needs to be a part of these conversations. Who else might be interested in funding this work? And then we also have work groups if you're interested in actually diving deeper and doing some of the boots on the ground work.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so here's our contact information. Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of understand the frustrations of this system, the realities of this system as well. And then I want to do a very teachery thing of doing kind of a round robin. You can pass if you would like, but I kind of want to go around and I'll stop sharing. I want to prioritize the folks that do not work for GSN. I want everybody to take a second to think about, maybe there's a question that you have. Maybe there is something that you believe you can provide. Maybe there is a grant that's coming up that you can connect us with. I want us to take a second to kind of go round robin. What are you thinking? What ways do you want to engage? And also questions as well.
This is Tony at DK. I think the way we want to engage is, a little bit on the legislative side, not necessarily pushing a bill, but really thinking through what a Bill of Rights could do and how you make that actionable. Because it's one thing to have a Bill of Rights out there for justice engaged youth. It's another thing to understand how you force the implementation of that across the system. So I think that's a lot of where we want to engage.
Yeah, love that.
I'm real interested in success stories. Where are we winning? And I'm looking for a success story that tells a story about a community volunteer coming alongside a family or a youth in a meaningful way. Data doesn't move people forward. Telling everybody how screwed up it is just makes everybody depressed and want to watch TV. So where are we winning with this? And give me some examples of, hey, we worked with 2 or 3 organizations. We had a end goal, and these volunteers worked with this student, and man, look where we got. Don't you want to do this cool thing like these people? Everybody can do this. This is easy. This is fun. This is meaningful. The narrative is just, this topic, we're becoming experts at telling a very demotivating narrative. So stop doing that. Tell me some success stories and make it tangible, where here's how people are supported. And that could be financing meaningful things. Here's the most valuable thing you could do to contribute to this. Sure. Those are, and then let's drive 9 News and Denver Post and people like that crazy. Hey, we got 10 great stories. When can we expect you to communicate these stories? Let's saturate the Denver Metro with these kind of stories, because right now the negative narratives are winning.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I appreciate that so much, Reg. We actually have a lot of positive stories from the last 2 years we can share. So thank you for that prompt. And we have a whole bunch of meetings with media next week. So good timing on your comment. Thank you.
Here we go.
I just want to also sort of, I agree with that so much. That the negative stories always lead. I think that's more of a feature of media, not an error or glitch, I should say. If it bleeds, it leads, and that's sort of how it works, right? And so I don't know if no matter how many times you flood them with positive stories, if that really changes the actual dynamic of how the media and press work. That's just a hard reality that I think we should work to change. But what I will say is, I was involved in helping to pass the governor's public safety package last year, which was millions and millions of dollars of funding that goes to community-based organizations for things like youth delinquency and prevention intervention grants, to organizations that work with justice involved students and work really well to get them to not re-enter sorry, my daughter's talking to you all, to get them to not enter into the criminal justice system. And if they have, to make sure that we do the best that we can to make sure that they do not re-enter. And so there was House Bill 22-1003, Senate Bill 22-145, And there's millions of dollars that are going to community-based organizations that do the work in those communities. And unfortunately, I think, Reg, I think a lot of those weren't highlighted in as big of a way that I wish that they were. So, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I think it's, even if the press doesn't pick up the story, it's you can't hurt to flag it for them, right? And so with that, I will stop because my daughter has a lot to say here.
She's also frustrated with this.
Yes.
I appreciate you all for taking the time, for engaging with this. We will be following up. We will follow up with this video just in case there was some specifics that you want to go back to. We will follow up with the article to let you all know, right, like the process that we're engaging in. And then we'll follow up with asks. We'll follow up with support. So just want to say thank you all so much. Please, please, please reach out if you have additional questions. We'll send out our contact information as well, but we will be in touch very, very soon.